There are few developers that have gained such an enviable reputation as Got Friends, and in today's video we're looking at a Polish classic, the WILGA. This high-wing four-seater boasts admirable stall capabilities. From its gear suspension to its wing struts, it's designed to be rugged. For you VFR and bush pilots out there, this is for you. Our journey today starts on the south coast of England and we're at Burning Blue Designs' new release, Solent Airport. The WILGA from Got Friends will set you back about $35 US. This may sound a lot until you realize just how much you're getting. Multiple variants including floats and tundra tires, original, midlife and more modern avionics, systems accuracy, detailed modelling and some scenery thrown in to boot. But perhaps most of all, it's Got Friends. So you just know the flight model will be as accurate as possible, and like most releases from this developer, it's almost guaranteed to put a smile on your face. Burning Blue Designs' rendition of Echo Golf Hotel Foxtrot represents the airport mid-2022, boasting a rich history going back to 1917 when it was a naval seaplane training school, subsequently closing in 1996 before being taken over by the local council. This optimized airport features amazing detail, control tower, cafe, hangars and the doors open, 3 helipads, static aircraft and so much more. Welcome to the Sim Hangar, my name's Mark, thanks very much for watching and let's get started. There are so many features and options available on this aircraft I'm not going to touch on them all. I'll leave that for you to discover. Our EFB comes in the way of a clipboard. The aircraft is preloaded with bits and pieces including a hammock and lantern, and you get the option to unload the cargo. And there's a degree of interactivity, not necessary from a pure flight simming point of view, but a welcome distraction for those that like this sort of thing. I've deployed the hammock by simply selecting the items on the clipboard. Also includes a guitar and you can play a few notes on that if you want. I'm not going to bother with that today, but if you're feeling a little peckish, pop a pan onto the stove, turn the stove on, and it will start cooking your bush tucker. There's also a fishing rod included and a number of other things. What is a nice touch is the lantern that hangs off the wing. Just don't make the mistake I made. I left it there. I forgot about it and ended up flying around with a lantern hanging off the wing. All this fits nicely in the back and the back seat rests can be put in the upright position. Anyway, enough of that. Let's prepare to get away. We'll stow the clipboard away. And step number 1, let's get rid of the gust lock. There we are, that's gone. Now let's secure the doors. Co-pilot's door is closed. Mine is still open, so let's close that. Interactive sounds are done very well on this aircraft as you interact with various things. Need to select left or right fuel tank. We'll start off with the left. To check your fuel levels is an interesting one. It's out on the wing. There we can see it. It's registering about 12 US gallons. We can also do the same for the right hand tank. There it is, out on the wing. That looks just about the same, yeah, about 12 gallons. If you're wondering what I'm using to look around, I'm using the Tobii eye tracker. In my personal opinion, the best head tracker available and the modern successor to Track IR. Note the shutters or slats behind the prop. We need to open these to ensure engine cooling and for startup, so we open up the oil and cylinder head cooler valves. We can see that the shutters have now opened. We wouldn't do this, of course, if it was very, very cold. A little brisk this morning, but not too bad. Currently it's about 6 degrees C. Next step is let's turn on the battery, which is configured to my Bravo throttle quadrant. Anti-collision lights and our nav position lights can go on as well, so anybody around us knows the aircraft is manned. On the right hand side are 2 ultraviolet switches or dials. Let's turn those both on. All the switches are painted with a light that illuminates under ultraviolet light, so they display when it gets dark, and we'll have a look at that a little later on. Next is something unusual. It uses air or pneumatics as opposed to all electrics for start. So let's open the valve and we should see the dial record the pressure. And we can see we got plenty of air pressure for start. You can refill from the clipboard. Let's now put our fuel pump on. It's a fairly noisy beast. And we also need to put our starter switch on. Nearly ready now for start. Our mixture now pushed in to full rich, and we can move the prop lever forward And now on most variants you'll find you need to prime the engine, and that's in between the two seats. There it is. I think I'll give it 4, maybe 5. Yeah, I think I'll do 5 pumps. It's about 5 degrees C, so that should be enough. Now turn our mags to both, and next to it is the starter switch. Press that to start the engine. I have my engine on realism mode, which it can be a bit awkward. If not on realism mode, she'll start straight away. Perhaps I need to prime it just a little bit more. Another 2 should be enough. Let's give it another go. Come on, WILGA, start for me. Everybody's watching. No, I don't think she's going to start on this occasion. Just push my throttle forward a little bit. Third time lucky, they say. Let's do it again. And a quick tip here, if you move the throttle all the way forward, force that fuel through and then back, she'll often take, and we're up and running. That engine really grumbles when she starts. Just turn the sound down because she is quite a noisy beast. And just check that I've got oil pressure registering, and initially adjusted my throttle for 1000 RPM. She's cold and she might splutter and die, so keep the revs at about 1000 to start. Air starter valve can now be closed. Down here below the prop and throttle is your carb heat and cabin heat, and we can carry on with our startup progress while we're waiting for the engine to warm up. Fuel pump can come off now. We no longer need the electrical assist, and our starter switch can also go off now. We don't need that. Keep an eye on the pressures and temperatures. Push the throttle forward if you need to about 1200, but keep your feet on the brakes if you don't have the chocks engaged. We can now turn on the artificial horizon, turn indicator, radio, although we won't be using that today, transponder, stall warning, and of course our generator switch, which is right next to the master battery switch. Once again, I've got this configured to my Bravo throttle quadrant. We'll just put that on. In addition, we can turn on our oil pressure and fuel pressure. Not too cold, but advisable to put pitot heat on, I think. It is early morning and a little bit gloomy and dark, so we definitely have to get some of our lights on. First of all, our cockpit lights. The lighting in this aircraft is done very well indeed, and once we're up in the air, we'll take a closer look at that. Cockpit lights are just gentle light, and I've now turned on the ceiling lamp, and we have light. Normally for flying you wouldn't have these on, but I'll leave mine on just so that things are easier to see. That's it. I think we're done now with the overhead panel. Let me go back and just check on those temperatures. You need to keep a close eye on them on realism mode. Engine is warming up and heading towards the green, but we do want to get away fairly quickly, so we might just hurry it up a little bit. You can do this by just closing your carb heat flaps a little bit. We can do that now because the engine's already started, and I'm just going to partly close the cylinder head and oil cooler shutters. Not close them all the way, just maybe 25-30%. That should do. There's no taxi lights on this, so we'll put on our landing lights as we're just about ready to taxi. There we are, landing lights on. I'm not really going to worry about the avionics today, but as you can see, the variant I'm in today, which is the 80X, has modern avionics, and click on the latch and you can move it across to right in front of you, which is very helpful. Our flight today is a very short hop indeed. From Solent Airfield, we're just going to head out over the Isle of Wight. We're between Southampton and Portsmouth. We're just going to fly down here to the Needles Rocks Lighthouse and then look for a place to land. The version of the WILGA I've picked today does have a basic autopilot. Just holds current heading and pitch, nothing more. There's no nav facility, but that's okay because no flight planned today, and we'll be flying VFR. When you remove your parking brake, it takes away the chocks automatically. Just bump that throttle forward just a tad and we can now taxi to the runway, which once again is only a short distance away. The WILGA taxis easily and is very responsive, but gentle on the throttle. And as you can see, no surprise, I've chosen the fat Alaskan Tundra tires. And as we go, we can get a quick peek at some more of Burning Blue Design's Solent Airport. This is definitely worth a look. Flaps to first stage, which is about 22 degrees for takeoff. Although it's a fairly long runway today, we probably don't really need them. But we'll do it anyway, and as you'll see, she takes off very easily indeed. We'll say ATC have given us clearance for takeoff, so we'll just line up initially on the runway. We won't be bothering with the run up today. Hold her on the brakes, pulling the stick all the way back so she doesn't tip, and I'm pushing the RPM up to about 1600. Temps are rising and now in the green, all looking good. Let's get away. Still holding back on the stick, I'm now starting to push the throttle forward gradually, and we're starting to gain speed. 20 knots, now 30 knots, 40 knots, she gains speed very quickly. Ease the stick back to neutral as you gain speed. As you saw, she was up very quickly. When the tail wheels up, you need to use rudder to hold her steady. We need to gain speed, safe height, so flaps up. And again, gentle on the engine, so I'm pulling back on the prop lever. I'm looking for something between 1850 and 1900 RPM. It should just be on the edge of the green. We're not going to climb very high today. Just a little over 1,000 feet will do me. Tapping off on the throttle and now trimming to maintain level flight. Gentle with the trim, she's very responsive. Throttle's at about 75%, we're at cruise, and let's test out the autopilot. Moving the dial left or right will change your heading, and when you do engage the autopilot, make sure the pitch of the aircraft is reasonable, ideally level, but I wouldn't have my nose up more than a couple of 100 feet, otherwise you can quickly run into trouble. Daylight really is just breaking on this fairly brisk December day. Going to hold this heading of about 240 degrees all the way to Needle Point Rock and Needle Point Lighthouse. The version I'm in today is very powerful. You'll find you'll need to tap off on the throttle fairly substantially, otherwise very quickly she'll overspeed. Here's a neat option. Pull this up and you're now doorless. Pull it back to bring the door, so you can fly either with or without the door. We'll have some air conditioning today, so no door for the pilot. Comparatively, she doesn't have that big a fuel tank, so keep an eye on your fuel. We've got about 9 gallons in the left-hand tank, so probably time to change tanks. Fuel pump on. We can now go and switch to the right-hand tank. We haven't used that yet, so we should still have our 12 US gallons in there. Wait a moment, no coughing and spluttering. Fuel pump can now come off. Everything looking fairly stable. Just have a quick glance out on the right hand side. Yes, that tank's still at 12 gallons, we're all okay. See the sunglasses there, and depending on how you're flying, they'll vibrate and move with the aircraft. Lots of nice little touches with the WILGA. We haven't really bothered with the avionics today, but it does have radios, and it does have a standard Garmin transponder. We can turn that on, and to set the transponder is exactly the same as you would do it with any other. We'll put in a code of 1200 today and set it to altitude reporting. Having these facilities on board means it's fine for flying on something like IVAO or VATSIM or something similar. Before we get to the Needles Rocks and Lighthouse, let me just show you the night lighting. I'm going to change the time of day. Let's make it relatively dark. If you're wondering, I'm using flow from Parallel 42 available from Orbix for my menus. Now I'm now going to turn the ceiling lamp off, and we can get a better feel of what the night lighting is like. That's really nice. There's an additional overhead lamp if you want it. Earlier I spoke about the ultraviolet lights, and here you can see the lovely blue hue that it's given. Anyway, cockpit lights back on, and before we resume our journey, I'll change the time of day back, and I just want to show you the windscreen wiper. To do that, we'll need to change the weather, so once again back to my flow menu. There's a free edition of this, the Essentials, and a Pro version. I'm using the Essentials version. I've selected weather. I'm just going to change that. Let's get some rain on. This is a much nicer interface, to be honest. although if you fly in VR it is somewhat lacking at this time. That's fairly heavy rain. Let's see if we can find something more suitable. Let's try storm, see if that's any better. No, that's even worse. Okay, so back to rain, we'll try that. We'll now close the menu and let me demonstrate the windscreen wipers. The wiper switch is in the overhead panel, so we'll turn that on. And here's something you don't see on many aircraft. The wipers are interacting with the rain. Hope that shows on the video. That's a great little touch and a lovely feature, and just makes the whole immersion even better. Okay, enough of that. Wipers off, and let's get back to our flight. Pulled back on the throttle. This aircraft just loves to go over 100 knots. And we're now descending, and we can see the lighthouse just in front of us, right at the end of the Needle Rocks. One of the beauties of using something like the Tobii eye tracker, of course, I've got no door, I can lean outside the aircraft, and my movement just feels more natural. If you want to know more, check my review video link in the notes below. In addition, there's a promo code included, and you can get an exclusive 5% discount. Anyway, back to the flight. I'm too high. I want to fly low right past the lighthouse and the Needle Rocks, so I need to lose some altitude quickly, and that's something the WILGA's very good at. Put her into a slip, opposite rudder and aileron, and you'll find that she'll descend rapidly at about 1500 feet a minute if you need her to, and fairly typical of a typical STOL bush aircraft. That's low enough, and now adding power, and there's our lighthouse. We're just going to circle the lighthouse, head back to the Isle of Wight, and see if we can find somewhere to land. I see we've got some buildings here. Doesn't look too bumpy. I think we can land somewhere there. So I just fly past, loop round, and let's see how we do for a landing. This is default scenery, and I must say it's done very well indeed. Very realistic. This is a great part of the world to fly in if you haven't already done so. Highly recommended. We're at 900 feet, and we're now turning for final. Flaps are down one stage, speed is reducing, and we're dropping quickly. And we need to do so because, as you can see, there's not a lot of land left. Flaps now to full, and full flaps, which is about 44 degrees or so, really acts like a speed brake. So keep an eye on your airspeed. You'd probably have to add some throttle, otherwise the risk of stall is there. The WILGA's handling it beautifully. We're now coming in, and let's see if I can manage a 3-point landing. Speed approaching 40 knots. Well, that was a little bumpier than I intended, but we're down safe and sound, and once again, the sound on this aircraft was excellent. If you're looking for something to keep you happy and occupied during the coming holidays, well, the WILGA gets my strongest recommendation. It's great fun. A go anywhere, land anywhere aircraft. God friends, thank you. It's a great addition to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Thank you very much for joining me today. Stay well, happy holidays. See you soon, and bye for now.